G'day guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we are of course here to review round 5. A couple of big results to go over the weekend, and of course we start on Thursday night with a bit of an upset. The Lions led all night against the Demons over at the MCG and were able to run away in the end by 22 points. The Lions won 82-60. Highest scorer in the end was Charlie Cameron with the 3 goals too, and there was an injury concern from this game really early in it. Christian Salem unfortunately did a hamstring in the first 5 minutes of the game and was subsequently subbed out of the game really early. Now that injury to Christian Salem was actually quite big early in the game. The Lions started pretty well in this one as well and were able to kick 2 late goals in the first quarter to take a 14-point lead into quarter time. The Lions dominated the second term with 5 goals in the quarter and kept the Demons goalless. Now a massive first half from Cam Rayner in the end, I have to quickly mention, was 16 disposals, 7 clearances, 310 metres gained and 8 inside 50s. A massive first half from him. Of course, a lot of comparisons to him and Dustin Martin earlier in his career. Probably hasn't lived to that sort of hype early on, but if he can build into that player in the next couple of years, Cam Rayner, it's going to be big for Brisbane. Now, the Demons did improve in the third quarter as they finally kicked a goal early, but the Lions regained control and blew the margin out to 43 points going into three-quarter time. Now, the last quarter felt kind of like the Lions put the cue in the rack to an extent. The Demons were able to put a little bit more respectability onto the scoreboard and brought the final margin down to 22 points. Now, looking at the statistics in the end, Max Gawn top scored on the AFL Fantasy front with the 149, had a massive night. Josh Dunkley with the 123, Jared Berry with the 120, Zorko with the 117, Charlie Cameron with the 106, and then Zach Bailey with the 102, rounding out the top 6 there. And now, of course, we get to the Boundary Riders votes. Now, like I say every single week, we will be giving a 3-2-1 vote system for every single game in the AFL season. Hey you. Yeah, you. I saw your little Tik Tok brain losing focus. Make sure to switch on and check this out.
BR Designs, our very own design company, is your one-stop shop for all your AFL prints. We have designs for every single team, so make sure to head down to the description below and make sure to use our unique features of scanning your QR code will actually bring up on your phone the highlight that you have the design for. And also, before you check out, make sure to use code
YouTube
for 10% off your purchase for the next 48 hours. So getting quick, guys, let's get back into the video.
And then, of course, at the end of the year, probably in the bye between the finals and the last round of the season, we'll be doing a live countdown of the Boundary Riders votes, of course. Then that will mean we'll be giving our second ever Boundary Riders medalist. Will be announced. Last year was Zach Butters, obviously the most prestigious award in the AFL market. I've already had so many AFL players messaging who's in front, who's going to win it. A couple of players asking like if they can pay me to get in front. Look, that's not going to happen. You can't pay me any sort of money to jeopardize the fairness of the vote system. Don't need any more of those messages. But nonetheless, let's get to the votes of this game. Cam Rayner finished with the 3 votes in this one. Dane Zorko with the 2 votes. And in the end, Josh Dunkley gave the 1 vote. And my brother gave the votes for this game. My wife's birthday was on Thursday, so I didn't watch most of this game. So he was able to give the 3 votes for that one. So if you don't agree with those votes, well, that's on him. Anyway, let's go to the next game. Friday night, the Bulldogs versus the Bombers. And despite the Bulldogs' great record against Essendon, the Bombers were able to break away late in this one and open up a 29-point win in the end. They won 96-67. Bulldogs have a lot of issues. Probably capped off right at the end of the game by the heavy knock that Tom Liberatore received. He stayed on the ground until the time when he fell over with no contact in the middle of the ground. It was a really scary set of circumstances, and he was taken off in the end in the final moments. But a couple of reports at the end of the game by Luke Beveridge saying that like it was an ankle injury. I don't know about that. But anyway, I guess that sort of news will be confirmed and whatever throughout the rest of the week. Now to the game itself. It was a free-flowing first term, pinging from each end. Pretty high-scoring first quarter as well. The Dogs missed a couple of opportunities late. They did well in the end, the Bombers, to take a 3-point lead into quarter time. The Dogs absolutely dominated the second term, but couldn't convert on the scoreboard. And the Bombers got back into the game through a big goal from Xavier Dersma from outside 50. The Bombers now 3 goals in a row to take the lead into halftime, which was very surprising for people who watched the game. And then it really tightened up in the third quarter with only 3 goals scored between both teams. But then in the final quarter, the Dogs could have started off really well, but a big miss from Jamari Ugle-Hagan was really the opportunity that they missed early. And then the Bombers went on a massive run. They kicked 5 quick goals and take the game completely away from the Dogs. The Dogs got a few late chances to bring some more respectability back to the scoreboard, but the job was done, and the Bombers ran out by 29 points in the end. Now to the statistics, of course. The top AFL fantasy scorer in this game was Xavier Dersma. He was massive. Jai Caldwell with the 108, Zach Merritt with the 104, Adam Treloar with the 102, Sam Darcy with the 96, and then Andy McGrath with the 93. And now to the votes for this game. 3 votes in the end went to Xavier Dersma. It was by far the best game that he's played for the Bombers, and one of the best games I've seen in his career. He was massive in this one. Jai Caldwell with the 2 votes, and the 1 vote in the end went to Andy McGrath. Now the reason why McGrath got the 1 vote is because he was able to keep Waitman goalless throughout the night, and still was able to gather up 23 disposals, along with 512 metres gained. He gave a huge push off that half back line for the Bombers, and he had a massive game, hence why he got the 1 vote. Now to Saturday afternoon, we have the Giants versus the Saints, and the Giants led throughout most of the afternoon, had a big lead in the last quarter. They led by 30-odd points, and then all of a sudden the Saints went on a massive run, kicked 6 late goals, and almost stole it, but in the end the Giants held on by 1 point. They won 80-79. Now, there were a lot of injuries in this one. The first one, of course, was probably the one that everyone's heard about, Sam Taylor. Head clash with Jack Steele on the wing. He looked really scary. He landed on the ground. The camera panned to his face. It looked shocking. Like, it was really, really scary sort of stuff. It took about 10 minutes for just to get him onto the little stretcher to then put him onto the little cart to drive him off. Luckily, the reports have came out that he is conscious. He's okay. He was in the hospital. I'm recording this just after the game on Saturday, so luckily he's okay. I mean, he'll miss next week, but hopefully everything's all good on Sam Taylor's front. He was, of course, subbed out in that one. Next injury was Max King. Suffered a hit in the 3rd quarter and took no further part in the game. Surprisingly, when he went off, though, the Saints actually improved going forward. I guess the Saints had more of that unknown aspect when going forward because Max King wasn't the target they were going to all the time, so yeah, he'll probably miss next week, I would say, when we find out more of the severity of the injury. And of course, the last one was Stephen Cornelio, another massive injury to a really important player for the Giants. He got caught from behind and in a tackle from Owens, and actually didn't move off the ground for a couple of minutes. It was really scary stuff as well. He had to be escorted off the ground by 2 trainers and couldn't put any weight on the injured leg. Now, it has been confirmed that it's not an ACL, so that's good news, but it's a serious leg injury nonetheless, so hopefully he's okay. Let's move to the game itself, though. The Giants start off very well, 4 goals to 1 in the first term. And the Giants look good in up forward, but also down back. Even though Sam Taylor did come off the ground, Jack Buckley did have a pretty good game against Max King before he subsequently got taken off. Yeah, the Giants looked all the goods early. They were able to they tried to break away early in the second term, but the Saints did well to keep in touch with the Giants. As they a lot of times when St Kilda did threaten a little bit, the Giants would just push away, and then the Giants still took a 19-point lead into the main break. Now, St Kilda kicked 2 quick goals in the 3rd term. They really got back into it, but then the Giants were able to take back control throughout the rest of the 3rd term, and they kicked 3 goals in a row and took a nice, comfortable 29-point lead. And also an early goal from the Giants in the final term brought it past nearly 6 goals the difference, and it kind of felt like the game was all over. I think most people watching it were thinking this game is dead and buried. But then all of a sudden, St Kilda got on a massive run. Out of nowhere, really. I don't think anyone saw this coming. They kicked 6 goals in a row, St Kilda, and with about 40 seconds to play, there was a real chance for St Kilda. The kick went inside 50 from the clearance, but James Peatling, of all people, the sub who came on for Sam Taylor early in the game, flew back with the flight, took a great mark, saved the game for the Giants, and they were able to hold on for a 1-point victory. So let's move to the statistics of this game, and Brad Hill top scored on the AFL Fantasy front with a massive 150 in the end. He had a massive game. Rowan Marshall with the 138, Jack Steele with the 122, Lockie Whitfield with the 120, Lockie Ash with the 99, and then Seb Ross with the 95 rounding out the top 6 there. And now we get to the votes for this game. 3 votes in the end went to Lockie Whitfield, 2 votes to Brad Hill, and the 1 vote went to Jack Steele. Now I know that Brad Hill obviously scored 150 in AFL Fantasy, which is a very high score, of course. And he had 33 touches, 13 marks in the end, which is a really big performance. But there are a couple of crucial errors he made throughout his first half, even into the 3rd quarter. But at stages in that last quarter, he was the real catalyst to get them right back into this game. He was really the only one early in the last quarter who actually was trying to get the ball moving, when I feel like a lot of the St Kilda players were acting like the game was dead and buried. So that was really the main reason why he kept the 2 votes. To be honest, before that last quarter, he may have been lucky to scrape that 1 vote. But that last quarter from him was massive. He was the real catalyst to get them into that last quarter. And yeah, that's why he got the 2 votes. Rowan Marshall was very close to getting that 1 vote as well. I just felt like Jack Steele had a really good game in the middle. And I did feel at times that Kieran Briggs, especially in that last quarter, was starting to do well in the ruck. So hence why he missed out on that 1 vote there. So next up, guys, we have the Carlton v Adelaide game, and probably the biggest upset of the season. We saw the Crows kick the final 3 goals of the game to steal the win away from Carlton. They won in the end, 100 to Carlton 98. Top scorers in the end were Charlie Curnow with the 4 goals 3 and Taylor Walker with the 4 goals straight. There were a couple of injuries from this game. One of them was to Adam Sard, who came off in the second quarter with a hamstring strain and was subsequently subbed out. And Mitch McGovern late in the game as well for Carlton was another hamstring and took no further part in the game as well. So they'll probably miss at least 2 to 3 weeks. So really disappointing for Carlton's defence. They've been holding up really well so far this season, so that's going to be big for them. But let's move to the game itself. So not only was it a high-scoring first term, but it was a high-scoring first half with both teams combining for 15 goals for. So some really straight goal kicking as well. Now, both teams wouldn't give an inch in the first term, with the Crows breaking to an 11-point lead in the quarter, but 3 late goals to Carlton saw them take a 7-point lead into the break. Same story for the second term. The margin never passed 10 points for either side, and it was almost goal for goal throughout most of it. But in the end, it was Carlton who took a 1-point lead into the main break. Now, Carlton had some big chances in the third term, dominated through the middle part of it, but just couldn't convert their chances on the scoreboard. And in the end, in the third term, it was 3 goals 7 to 5 goals 1 on Adelaide's side, and the scores were level going into the final change. Now, a few goals either way early in the quarter, but it was Carlton who broke away to a game-high 16-point lead midway through the last term. It kind of felt like that was it for Carlton. It looked like they had a win and were going to stay undefeated. But then a massive final quarter from Isaac Rankin spurred Crows into action. They kicked the last 3 goals of the game, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, and finally got their first win of the season. Now, I want to mention, he's not going to get into the votes here because he was the sub, but a massive final quarter from the substitute for Adelaide in Sam Berry. Massive performance. He kicked the match winner, of course, also had 9 touches and the 2 tackles. He was massive. He'll be in the best 22 next week for Adelaide against Essendon. And they've got their season up and going, Adelaide. They've had a really poor start to their season, so maybe they can get on a bit of a run and maybe push towards the final spot where they, should be going into this season. Looking at the statistics now, the top scorer on the AFL Fantasy front was his first game of the season, Sam Walsh. He got 145 in the end. Massive performance from him. Blake Acres with the 109, Isaac Rankin with the 106, Keys and Walker both with the 100, and Paddy Cripps with the 94. And now, of course, we get to the votes. With the 3 in the end, it went to Sam Walsh, 2 votes went to Isaac Rankin, and the 1 vote went to Taylor Walker. Now, it was really tough between Isaac Rankin, Ben Keys, and Taylor Walker really on the 2 and 1 votes. But the reason why Isaac Rankin got the 2 was kind of like I mentioned when I was talking through the game. He was the real catalyst for the Crows, getting them back into it in that last quarter. He had a massive last term, but he also had a pretty big match himself. 3 goals, 23 touches, 2 tackles. Played a little bit through the midfield, which I think is good to add that extra pace in there. And Taylor Walker kicked the 4 goals straight. So I felt like he was the big influence for the Crows. And it does kind of prove that the Crows need Taylor Walker to fire to win games. So maybe a concerning point going into the later parts of the season. But for now, he was a real match winner for them. After that, we get to Port Adelaide versus Fremantle. And another heartbreaker for Fremantle at Adelaide Oval. They went down late to Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide got 66. Freo were 63. No injury concerns from this game. So let's get straight into it. After a tough first quarter, Freo actually had the lead for the majority of it, but Port Adelaide took a 7-point lead into the quarter-time break. Port Adelaide kicked an early goal in the second term, courtesy of Charlie Dixon, but then Freo regained control, kicking 3 goals in a row thanks to Josh Tracy. We'll get to him in a moment. Josh Tracy, 7 disposals, 2 tackles, 5 marks, 2 of them inside forward 50, and the 3 goals in the second term. Massive performance of him throughout the whole night, but that second term was massive, and he's in for a pretty good year. He's had a pretty good start. Now, in the third term, Port Adelaide took control, but they just couldn't get it on the scoreboard. They had 16 inside 50s to Fremantle's only 7, but on the scoreboard, Port Adelaide got 2 goal 4, Freo got 2 goal 2, and Freo, in fact, took the lead into the final term with a 4-point lead. In the final term, Freo looked like they had the game won, similar to last week when Brayshaw kicked a big goal just midway through the last quarter. It felt like it was all done, but unlike last week, the umpires weren't there to take this game away from them. It was Port Adelaide who fought their way back in this one. 2 late goals to steal the game in the end after being down for the majority of the second half, and Port Adelaide ran away with a 3-point victory. Let's move to the statistics on the AFL Fantasy front. Zach Butters top scored with the 111, Josh Tracy with the 108, Houston with the 105 along with Luke Ryan, Hayden Young with the 102, and then Ollie Wines with the 99. Now let's get to the votes. 3 votes in the end went to Zach Butters, 2 votes went to Hayden Young, and the 1 vote had to give it to him was Josh Tracy. After that, we get to the final game on Saturday night, which was the Gold Coast Suns up against Hawthorn. And the Gold Coast led throughout the whole night up at the Gold Coast Stadium. I think it's called People's First now. And won in the end pretty convincingly by 53 points. 109 to the Gold Coast, 56 to Hawthorn. Highest scorer in the end was Ben King with the 4 goals for. There was one injury concern in this game, which was Malcolm Rose's. He did do a hamstring in the third term and was subbed off. He'll probably miss a couple of weeks as well, which is really disappointing. It's a real energizer up there for the Gold Coast forward line. But let's move to the game itself. Like I said, Gold Coast led all night. They kicked away in the first term with a 4-1 quarter. Hawthorn were a little bit stronger in the second term, only losing it by 4 points, and we're down by 22 points at the main break. Now, just to quickly mention, Ben King at halftime had the 1 goal for in the game. It has to do a lot better than that, and he did really well in the third quarter. He kicked 2 early goals straight through, and then ended up with 3 straight goals to finish the third term. The Suns were able to kick away in that quarter with a 5-2 goal third quarter, and it was good as done from there. Hawthorn's midfield were well beaten in the first half and caused Sam Mitchell to actually sub out a fit Cam McKenzie at halftime to spring some life into their midfield by bringing on Hustwaite, but it didn't really work at all. And in the end, the Gold Coast in the last quarter took the much control and ended up winning by 53 points. Now, I do just want to quickly mention, obviously Malcolm Roses was the one who was subbed out, and David Swallow did come into the game. And an interesting last quarter from David Swallow. Ended with the 3 goals, 7 disposals as well in that final term. So I guess he did his role as the sub, but let's be honest, the game was well done by then. So I think just got a couple of cheeky goals in the end for David Swallow, but as the veteran himself, I'm pretty sure he'd be happy with that. So, to the statistics on this game and on the AFL Fantasy front, Noah Anderson top scored with the 154, Sam Flanders with the 121, Graham with the 14 tackles in this game got 104, Carl Amon with the 102, Rao with the 101, and then Clousey again with a 94. Now we get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Noah Anderson, 2 votes went to Ben King, and the 1 vote went to Matt Rao. Now, guys, let's get to Sunday. And the first game, of course, was Geelong versus North Melbourne down in Kardinia Park. And as most people were expecting, Geelong won pretty comfortably in the end by 75 points. 139, which is the highest scorer of the year, to North Melbourne 64. Highest goal scorers in the end were Jeremy Cameron with the 6 goals straight and Brad Close with the 4 goals. Was one injury concern from this one. It was high draft Ian McKercher, who received a massive hit in the first term and was subbed out at quarter time with broken ribs. He was sent to the hospital and was pretty concerning at the time, but the reports after the game are saying that it was mainly precautionary, so there is actually a chance that he could play next week, McKercher, but I would actually be very surprised. If you have to go to the hospital for ribs, I think that's pretty serious, and they should take a precautionary, especially when it's a very young player of theirs. But to the game itself, the Cats started off this game really well as expected. They kicked the first 3 goals of it. But to the credit of North Melbourne, they did kick 3 of the next 4 goals to bring back the margin to 7 points. But a late goal on the siren from the Cats actually got them to a 13-point lead at quarter time. But then the game basically went to script as most people were expecting. North Melbourne were only able to kick 3 goals in the second and third term, while the Cats dominated with the 10 goals. And then the Kangaroos did a little bit better in the last quarter, but basically, I think everyone kind of knows that Geelong put the cue on the rack, and North Melbourne did kick 4 goals in the final term, but the Cats kicked 6 goals and were able to win in the end by 75 points. And look, it's another performance from North Melbourne that sees them lose by over 10 goals. They haven't had that too much this year, but I mean, I think it's going to start piling on if they don't find some sort of way to kick goals other than getting it to Larkey. He kicked 2 goals in the end, but he couldn't get around it enough. Eddie Ford got 3 goals in the end for North Melbourne, but they're going to struggle this year, and their defence is really shot at the moment. Charlie Comben did play okay, but North Melbourne are in a hole, and it's going to be really hard for them to see them getting out of it. Let's move to the statistics of this game, though. On the AFL Fantasy front, Harry Sheasel top scored with a massive 161 and the 39 touches. Had a pretty good game for North Melbourne, I will say. Jeremy Cameron with the 122, Bailey Scott with the 118, Powell with the 110, Cherry with the 107, and Davis Uniacke with the 102. And now we get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Jeremy Cameron, 2 votes to Brad Close, and the 1 vote in the end went to Max Holmes. And guys, let's get to the final game of the round. In a bit of a surprising one, but West Coast Eagles have won their first game of 2024. They were pretty dominant throughout the afternoon and were able to win in the end 109-70 against the Tigers. Now, there were a couple of injury concerns from this game. First of all, Jaden Short did pull up with a calf strain and was subbed out in the second quarter, along with Luke Edwards, who was actually subbed out last week with an injury. He was subbed out in the second quarter yet again, this time with concussion. So the Tigers' injury concerns mount up even more. So it has to be mentioned that Richmond did come into this game very depleted, but nonetheless, I don't think they should be losing to West Coast. But credit to the Eagles because they played some really good footy. Now to the game itself, the Tigers had a pretty good start to this game, and at stages actually had double the amount of inside 50s over the Eagles midway through the quarter, but they actually didn't take their chances, and the Eagles kicked 3 late goals only to find themselves 8 points down at quarter time. The Eagles did really well in the midfield especially. They got really on top, especially Elliot Yeo was really back to that form that we saw around that grand final era in 2018, 2019. His tackling was there, his two-way running, his tough stoppage play, and he also hit the scoreboard as well, which is really good to see. And it was honestly one of the best quarters I've seen from the West Coast Eagles in quite a while. They played pretty well against Sydney for parts of it last week, but this game was really good to see from them. And it was massive in that second term. And I have to mention as well, they kicked 8 goals, 1 in that second term. So really good goal kicking, but 8 goals is massive from them. Now a massive first half I have to mention from Jake Waterman. He had 8 disposals, 6 marks. All of them were contested and ended up with 4 goals, 1. Now the Tigers were a bit lucky to get a few goals through some mistakes from the Eagles defence and only found themselves 19 points down at half time. But the Eagles were dominant through the third term, keeping possession down their end for the majority of it, keeping the Tigers goalless for 36 minutes of footy. Now, the Eagles did miss a few chances. They kicked 4 goals, 6 in the third term, but kept the Tigers to only 1 goal, 1. And the 1 goal that the Tigers did get was a late chance from Dustin Martin. Now, in the last quarter, it was pretty much a lot of the same. It was a pretty dry old last quarter. Only 3 goals were kicked. After half time, the West Coast Eagles actually missed a lot of opportunities. They kicked 5 goals, 11 in the second half. But the Tigers didn't really mount much of a fight. So it was pretty disappointing from Richmond after the last few weeks that they have had. Pretty good performance against St Kilda and an upset win against the Swans. This is pretty disappointing. And an interesting statistic that I saw late in the game. In the second half, the inside 50 count was West Coast had 35 inside 50s to Richmond only 10. So that's a really damning stat on Richmond. Now, again, they have had a lot of injuries, but at the end of the day, you got to put your best team out there, and this team didn't perform in the end. But who would have seen West Coast having a win at this point in the season? They've had a really tough start. They haven't looked very good for the majority of it, being smashed in the first couple of games. But the last few weeks are pretty good to see. And Harley Reid's had a really good performance in the last few weeks as well. Was massive against Sydney last week and was very good in this game as well with 27 touches. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't get into the votes. He got close. He was very close to that 1 vote, but we'll talk about them in a second. Let's talk about the statistics in this game. Top scorer in the end was Jake Waterman with the 148 on the AFL Fantasy front. He was massive. 112 to Tim Kelly, 105 to Shea Bolton. Lafau, surprisingly, with the 99. Elliot Yeo with the 94, and then Liam Baker with the 92. Now let's get to the votes of this game. So the 3 votes in the end went to Jake Waterman. A 6-goal performance deserves that 100%. Elliot Yeo with the 2 votes, and the 1 vote did go to Tim Kelly. I just felt like he was a little bit more influential in that midfield group for the Eagles. But he was definitely competing for Harley Reid for that 1 vote for a lot of the game. But yeah, guys, that's basically all the review of round 5. Make sure to let me know down below if your team did win or what your result for your team was this week. I just want to quickly mention as well that there's going to be a massive video coming out tomorrow. It'll be out 3 o'clock Victorian time, Sydney time, 2:30 for people in South Australia and I think Queensland. Massive video coming out, one of the video essays that I've been doing. So really hope you stick around for that one, guys. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll catch us all next week for the review of round 6.